ओके एवरीवन, अस्सलाम वालेकुम। मैं डॉक्टर नीला आप लोगों से बात कर रही हूँ। अनफॉर्चुनेटली आप लोगों को मैं देख नहीं सकती, इसलिए आई डोंट नो कि आपको आवाज़ जा रही है कि नहीं। यहाँ थोड़ा सा ऑडियो का मसला चल रहा था। टुडे हमारा जो लेक्चर है दैट इज़ अबाउट द साइनोटिक कंजेनिटल हार्ट डिजीज़। लेकिन इससे पहले इन कंटिन्यूशन ऑफ योर लास्ट लेक्चर जो अभी हो चुका है, प्रीवियसली डॉक्टर मरियम ने लिया था, आई वुड लाइक टू सेड कि मैं कुछ चीज़ें हैं जो आपको ज़रा डिटेल में डिस्क्राइब करना चाहूँगी। पीडियाट्रिक कंजेनिटल हार्ट डिजीज़ समझने के लिए द मोस्ट इम्पॉर्टेंट थिंग आपको जो पता होनी चाहिए वो ये है कि कार्डिक पजल्स के बारे में जानना सबसे पहले ज़रूरी है। ये कार्डिक पजल हमें ये बताता है कि एक्चुअल में जब तक हमें ये पता नहीं होगा कि एक चैम्बर का दूसरे चैम्बर के साथ किस तरह रिलेशन है, वो कांट गेट इट कि कार्डिक एनॉमली क्या है। तो दैट इज़ व्हाई इट इज़ कॉल्ड एज कार्डिक पजल। आप सबको पता होगा कि ये क्या चीज़ है। दैट इज़ कॉल्ड एज द फीटल सर्कुलेशन। द फीटल सर्कुलेशन कंजेनिटल हार्ट डिजीज़ के साथ क्लोजली रिलेटेड होती है, बिकॉज अगर आपको फीटल सर्कुलेशन का नहीं पता तो यू कांट गेट इट के आगे डिफेक्ट क्या चल रहा है। ड्यूरिंग द फीटल सर्कुलेशन कुछ चैनल्स होते हैं जो ओपन होते हैं। अगर आप इस पर देखना शुरू करें तो दिस इज़ द प्लेसेंटा, और प्लेसेंटा से ये जा रही है umbilical vein. Umbilical vein is the only vein into the body which contain the oxygenated blood. ये oxygenated blood इसके बाद लिवर में जाता है और लिवर में बाईपास कर देता है लिवर की सर्कुलेशन को, और डक्टस वेनोसिस के थ्रू ये इंफीरियर वेना केवा में चला जाता है। And from this inferior vena cava it enters into the right atrium. In the right atrium there are the two surge of the blood. The one is coming from the superior vena cava and the one is coming from the inferior vena cava. The superior vena caval blood goes into the right atrium and then into the pulmonary circulation. Whereas in the inferior vena cava, the most of the blood is oxygenated, and this oxygenated blood goes to the right atrium, and from the right atrium through the foramen avail it goes into the left atrium. From the left atrium it goes into the uh, uh, left ventricle, and then through the aorta whole of the body is supplied by this blood, and then this blood goes through the two umbilical vein into the and two umbilical arteries into the placenta. After the birth, what happened is this circulation is changed. That is, after the cutting of the umbilical cord, the ductus venosus is closed, and the whole of the blood into the inferior vena cava is now venous drainage from the lower part of the body. And the right atrium is containing the blood from the inferior and the superior vena cava, that is the whole of the body and head and neck, and is all of the blood is deoxygenated. This deoxygenated blood then goes to the lungs for the oxygenation. Whereas due to the decreased pressure on the right side, as the most of the blood which is coming from the placenta is shut down now, there is the decrease in the temperature, the decrease in the pressure on the right side of the heart compared to the left side. And due to this decreased pressure into the right side, this foramen avail is closed. And now the lung is supplied by whole of the oxygenated blood rather than deoxygenated blood. And this now the left atrium is receiving the blood only coming from the lung that is oxygenated, and it is distributed to the whole of the body. These are the two findings which these are the two pictures which show the comparison. This is the before the birth, that is the when the deoxygenated blood is entering into the lung, and this shows after the birth what changes has been taken place, and the left and the right atrium is working as they are meant to be. That is, the right side of the heart is delivering the deoxygenated blood, and the left side of the heart is transporting the oxygenated blood. And all of these things depend upon the decrease in the pressure on the right side of the heart. If anything leads to the failure of this phenomena, that is the decrease in the pressure on the right side of the heart, it will leads to the mixing of the right and the left heart. This transition period, that is the shifting from the fetal to the adult circulation and the closure of all the channels, fetal channels there, takes about 6 hours of age. Physiological changes from the placental sport to the self-maintenance occur in 6 hours. Immediately, fetus prepare for the transition over a course of the gestation, and the transition depend on the gestational age and the quality of the placental sport. And within week, this physiological closure is then replaced by the anatomical closure. There are the two types of the congenital heart disease. These are the acyanotic heart disease and cyanotic heart disease. This slide is very important because for your differential diagnosis while attempting the MCQs. Acyanotic congenital heart diseases are like the interruptic aortic arch, aortic stenosis, patent ductus arteriosus, ventricular septal defect, and atrial septal defect. In all of these conditions, there is no cyanosis in the patient, but the patient is having the congenital heart diseases. There is in the cyanotic defect, congenital cardiac disorder, hyperplastic left ventricle, pulmonary stenosis, tetralogy of Fallot, transposition of great arteries, and tricuspid atresia. Out of all these, the most important are two. These are the tetralogy of Fallot and the transposition of the great vessels. Okay, now we will talk about the cyanotic congenital heart diseases. These are the diseases in which the patient, there is the left to right mixing of the blood. How this blood occur? Tetralogy of Fallot constitute the four defect, that is ventricular septal defect, overriding of aorta, pulmonary artery stenosis, and the right ventricular hypertrophy. The main pathophysiology which leads to this type of the defect is the main pathology is this pulmonary trunk. This is the pulmonary artery. This is the pulmonary trunk, and these are the pulmonary valve. This pulmonary artery or the pulmonary trunk is primarily defected. Either it is stenosed, it has defected valve, it is atretic, that is there is no lumen inside it, or the variable level of the stenosis is there. Due to stenosis of this pulmonary artery, it also drags with it the upper part of the septum. This is the upper part of the septum and this is the lower part of the septum. And during the embryonic life, these two septum grow above each other and then they meet in the midline. But due to the defect in the pulmonary artery, it drags the upper part of the septum with it. So they never come closer to each other for the closure. And this result in a large VSD which connects the right and the left atrium. And due to when this pulmonary artery drags with it the septum, there is the aorta present over there. This aorta is also dragged toward the right side, and it is now opening in immediately above the interventricular septum. That is the word overriding aorta. It overrides the septum, and now it gets the supply from both the ventricle. And the right sided pressure is high because of the mixing of this blood and due to the stenosis of the outside pulmonary trunk. So it leads to the high pressure in the right side. When the pressure on the right side is increased a lot, it leads to the it leads to the increase shunting of the blood from the right side to the left side. And the left aorta, if you see the color of the aorta, it is changed. It is because it is receiving the oxygenated and the deoxygenated blood from the both of the ventricle. So this is the pathophysiology which is responsible for the tetralogy of Fallot. Okay, the symptoms of the tetralogy of Fallot depend upon at which stage the child is presenting to you. If a child present in the newborn period, they will present with severe cyanosis and respiratory distress. If afterward, if the cyanosis is less or the stenosis is not very marked, then the patient will present in the later half of the life, that is within a month or two or adult life, with the history of the dyspnea on exertion or the crying and cyanosis. In addition to this, the patient is having the hypercyanotic spell that is called as death spell. In these hypercyanotic spell, the patient is irritable, cyanotic, and hyperventilating. We are going to discuss this in detail in a short while. The patient then learn to alleviate these symptoms, and the patient's mother or the father will come and tell you that the patient is getting breathless, and then they used to squat. And while the patient squat, its condition is improved. Other symptoms which are present on physical examination are clubbing of the fingers, then severe cyanosis, systolic ejection murmur at the left upper sternal border that is due to the pulmonary stenosis, The lab studies which are done are X-ray chest, which shows the prominent right ventricle. ECG will show right ventricular hypertrophy and right axis deviation. Echo will show display and quantify the extent of right ventricular outflow obstruction. The other clinical sequence or the findings will be the patient will be polycythemic, anemia, clotting abnormality, hypercyanotic spells, CNS injury like abscess and embolic event can be there, pulmonary hypertension, endocarditis, growth retardation, and psychosocial problems. This is a chest X-ray of a patient with tetralogy of Fallot. If you see, there is the broad base is there. This is the right ventricular hypertrophy, which has lifted the apex of the heart above. So if you see, the apex of the heart is usually on the diaphragm, but in this case, the apex of the heart is rounded and it is lifted above. So if you see, it is also called as the boot shaped heart, because in the old ages, the boot of the wooden boot was of this shape, in which the tip of the boot is always above the ground. And if you also see, there is the decreased pulmonary vasculature due to the pulmonary stenosis. There are the two type of the management, medical management and the surgical management. Definitive treatment is surgical management. Medical management only give us time for the proper time for the surgical intervention. Like the surgical intervention, which are of the two types. For you people, you have to remember both these types. That is palliative surgery is Ballard Towsing shunt, in which the right subclavian artery is connected with the pulmonary artery to improve the pulmonary blood flow. But in the newer world, or in the world outside the Pakistan, this procedure is not done. And then is the definitive treatment, that is total correction, in which all the abnormalities are corrected, and so the patient is having a normal heart. In the medical treatment, we give the continuous prostaglandin even infusion is given to maintain the ductus patency in case of only newborn period. After the newborn period, we closely monitor the sign and the symptoms. We closely monitor the sign and the symptoms. Okay. Beta, if you have any question during this period, you can write to me, and then I will answer you after the lecture. My chat box is open. If you want to ask anything, you can write in the answer in that. Okay, the close monitoring of the child is done. We have to prevent the dehydration, because it will lead to increase in the obstruction in the right ventricular outflow tract obstruction. Hemoglobin and hematocrit is observed, because these patients have polycythemia, so thromboembolic phenomena are increased. And also closely monitor the hypercyanotic spells. Okay, these are the Bellalock Towsing shunt. This shows the Bellalock Towsing shunt. Okay, ji. This is the what the hypercyanotic spell is. Beta, hypercyanotic spell is in the younger children. They, on the physical exertion or any sympathetic activity, they lead to the increased systemic oxygen in the condition. They need the increased oxygen saturation, which is not meant at that time. It lead to the convulsion, coma, and death. Usual age of cyanotic spell is 6 months to 6 years. Cyanosis is crying is not a spell. Crying exercise may trigger the spell. In this case of the spell, the pathophysiology of the spell is, this is a patient with the normal tetralogy of Fallot. That is, there is a right to left shunting of the blood there. And this is the pulmonary outflow tract obstruction, that is stenosis of the pulmonary valve. And the aorta is having mixing of the right and the oxygenated and the deoxygenated blood. The patient is in a compromised state. During the hypercyanotic spell, that can be due to the fever, infection, crying, agitation, anything. What happen is, this outflow tract obstruction is increased to manifold. Like for example, if it is only the example, it is not the right figure which I am telling you. If it was initially only 40% obstruction in the flow of the blood to the pulmonary artery, if there was 40% obstruction, it lead to the 90% obstruction in the blood flow to the pulmonary trunk. So the practically speaking, pulmonary obstruction become complete. So there is a large volume of the blood on the right ventricle. When it cannot pass through this pulmonary artery, it will be shunted from the right to the left shunt. So the shunting from the right to left is increased and no blood is pumped into the pulmonary circulation. So this leads to the increased cyanosis, and due to this increased cyanosis, these patients become hypercyanotic, breathless. These patients never develop the pulmonary edema. So what the hypercyanotic spell is, I have described you. And during this spell, what you do is keep the child in a quite calm environment. And the most calm environment for a child, of a young child, is the mother's lap. So always put the patient into the mother's lap, and also call her to have his or her legs in a knee chest position. This is the knee chest position, that is the knees are connected towards the heart to decrease this obstruction. Morphine is given to decrease the pulmonary trunk, relax the pulmonary trunk and open it. Then soda bicarb is given to prevent the acidosis. Systemic vascular resistance is increased through propranolol. 0.1 milligram per kg is given. Methoxamine is given 0.1 milligram per kg IV. And in general, anesthesia can be required in cases where these measures fails. These patients are given usually prophylactic propranolol to decrease these events. Okay. Now I would like to discuss why we these medicines. As you have seen here, the main pathology in case of hypercyanotic spell is that this pulmonary trunk is obstructed further compared to the previous scenario. So what we have in our hand is either how can we improve to keep the patient in the this condition, is that we have three options. If you see, first of all, we can overcome this obstruction. So everything will be on the previous lines, or we can reduce the pressure here, or we can increase the pressure here. All of these conditions will lead to the decrease in the cyanosis and shunting of the blood. So to improve the pulmonary opening, we can do the two measures. One is this: keep the patient keep and calm. So in decrease its parasympathetic and sympathetic activity, which is leading to this problem. Second is the morphine. You give the morphine and it relax these valves. Second thing is which we can do is reduce the venous return, and this venous return can be decreased by knee chest position. So we decrease the and reducing the acidosis. And this is the how can we increase the, if we increase the systemic vascular resistance with the medications, it will increase the left sided pressure, and when the left sided pressure is increased, it will reduce this shunting. So these are the three principles these are the three things which we have done to improve this stat spell. In the many cases in which the patient is in the severe spell, emergency surgery can also be performed, needed to be performed. But in the Pakistan, obviously, we have limited resources, and it is not very easily or frequently done here. But internationally, during a TET spell, if it is not reversed, immediate surgery is performed. The other important thing which I have described earlier is the transposition of great artery. As its name shows, the transposition means the position of the vessels is changed. How? This is the transposition of the great arteries. Complete transposition of the great arteries with the intact interventricular septum. What happens is, this is the right atrium, this is the right ventricle, but this right ventricle, which should be connected to the pulmonary artery, is connected with the aorta. This is the aorta. So right ventricle is connected to the aorta. And the left atrium, which is connected to the left ventricular, should be connected to the aorta, is connected to the pulmonary artery. Now what happens is, the blood which is shunted from the left ventricle enters into the pulmonary artery instead of aorta and going into the whole of the body. And then they goes to the lung, come back from the lung into the left atrium, and again is shunted to the lung. So this is all the blood which is circulating into the lung and heart only. Similarly, the right atrium contains the venous drainage from the whole of the body. It comes into the right ventricle, and through the aorta, it is again given to the whole of the body. If there is no connection before the birth, this is the PDA, this is the ductus arteriosus, which is present before the birth. So the before the birth, the child is having the mixing of the blood and is okay. But after the birth, when the PDA is closed, pulmonary ductus arteriosus is closed, this patient develops the severe type of the heart failure and the desaturation and dies within hours of the birth. So it is a very significant thing. Only those children survive beyond the neonatal or the first few hours of life if they have some connection left between the right and the left ventricle, which allows the mixing. And that is called as TGA with ventricular septal defect. This is the condition which is called as transposition of great arteries with either ASD is present or VSD is present or PDA is present. So these channels, which are the defect into the heart, allow the mixing of the right and the left side of the ventricle. The blood patient develops the cyanosis, but survive beyond the neonatal period. And how could you see what the patient is having? If the patient have profound hypoxia, rapid deterioration in a newborn period, and the death within the first few hours, ये मैं आपको पहले ही बता चुकी हूँ. Single second heart sound, the very important thing is single second heart sound is present with no one heart murmur, right? And the otherwise the second heart sound जो होता है उसमें left and right दोनों के component आ रहे होते हैं. एओटा और उसके साथ एओटा एंड पल्मोनरी आर्टरी दोनों का मरमर आ रहा, दोनों के साउंड आ रहे होते हैं. इस कंडीशन में सिंगल सेकंड हार्ट साउंड आ रहा होता है. क्लिनिकल मिक्सिंग लेन, अगर उसमें वीएसटी या लार्ज पीडीए मौजूद हो तो लार्ज विग्रस, उसमें लार्ज विग्रस इन्फेंट होगा जिसमें साइनोसिस होगा लेकिन लिटिल रेस्पिरेटरी डिस्ट्रेस होगा. ये पेशेंट में पल्मोनरी ब्लड फ्लो नॉर्मल है. तो इस वजह से व्हाट हैपेंस इज द पल्मोनरी ब्लड फ्लो नॉर्मल होने की वजह से ये पेशेंट में हमारे पास जब न्यू बॉर्न पीरियड या उसके बाद भी प्रेजेंट करते हैं तो वो पल्मोनरी हाइपरटेंशन के साथ बहुत ज्यादा प्रेजेंट करते हैं. दिस इज द पेशेंट एक्सरे विद द पल्मोनरी ट्रांसपोजिशन ऑफ ग्रेट आर्टरी. अगर आप इसमें देखें तो इसके एक्सरे पे हार्ट को कहा जाता है एग ऑन साइट, और उसका रीजन ये है एग ऑन साइट पे कहने का कि अगर आप इस हार्ट को देखें तो ये बिल्कुल ओवल छोटा सा हार्ट है जो, और बिल्कुल छोटी सी उसकी पेडिकल है क्योंकि एओटा एंड वो दोनों अंडर डेवलप्ड और पास पास मौजूद हैं, नॉर्मल पोजीशन में नहीं है. और अगर आप देखें तो ये बिल्कुल एक एग शेप का हार्ट है, और अगर इसकी पल्मोनरी मार्किंग्स देखें तो ये बहुत हाई हैं. सो दीज आर एक्चुअली ड्यू टू इट इज कॉल्ड एज एग ऑन साइट, और पेडिकल इसका बहुत छोटा होता है. बच्चों मेरे इसके साथ, अच्छा जी, okay ji. Management, what we do in the newborn period is if the patient is having a complete right and the left complete transposition of the great artery, what we have to do is we have to keep the ductus arteriosus open. To keep the ductus arteriosus open, we give the proper Lannan infusion to increase the shunting from the right and to allow the mixing of the right and the left side of the heart. After that, if the patient after that period, if the patient is not having any right and left mixing abnormality, what we have to do is we do the atrial septostomy, in which we pass a balloon through the foramen ovale and try to keep this open, so allowing the mixing of the blood. If the patient is not having if the patient is already having a connecting lesion there, then as early as possible corrected total correction of the heart is done, in which the defect is closed and the atrial switch process, atrial switching is done, in which the aorta is then cut and anastomosed with the left side and the pulmonary trunk with the right side. Narrowing of the entrance in this another abnormality which leads to the cyanotic congenital heart diseases are, these are the called as pulmonic stenosis, In the pulmonary stenosis, what happens is the pulmonary valve is simply stenosed to a variable degree. So the clinically the patient usually presented the sign and symptoms of the TOF, and in the newborn period, prostaglandins is given to come to keep the PDA open, so the oxygenation of the patient is good. And after that, what is done is cardiac catheterization is done, and the balloon valvoplasty is done. And if the balloon valvoplasty is sufficient to create a sufficient channel for the passage of the blood to the pulmonary artery, it is capped. Otherwise, then the surgery, then if it is failed or is not sufficient, then the surgical valvotomy is done and the valve is replaced, and this condition is solved. Then there comes the truncus You must have heard this name, truncus previously in the FSC days, when you used to do the dissection of the frog, as the frog heart has in the center truncus. And in the human heart, what this truncus is actually, the aorta and the pulmonary trunk are not segregated from each other. Rather than they form a combined channel above the heart, in which both the aorta, and if you see, this is the combined channel that is called as truncus arteriosus, and the end of this channel is attached the two pulmonary arteries and the aorta. So whole of the right and the left side of cardiac output is shunted into the truncus arteriosus, and this truncus arteriosus causes the mixing of the right and the left side of the blood, and this blood is then shunted with equal proportion of the oxygenated and deoxygenated blood into the aorta and the arteries. The patient usually present with severe respiratory distress and the severe cyanosis at the time of the birth, and there is usually no murmurs there. So if immediately it is not tackled, it can lead to the death of the newborn in the newborn period. And that is that. Then another abnormality that is called as tricuspid atresia. In the tricuspid atresia, what happens is tricuspid valve is closed. This one. Oh, above picture is of normal heart, and the below this is the absent tricuspid valve. When the tricuspid valve is not open, whole of the blood from the superior and the inferior vena cava goes into the the right atrium, and from the right atrium it is shunted to the left side through the foramen veil, and from there it is shunted into the ventricles, and from the ventricles it is shunted to a large into the both of the ventricles and shunted to the whole of the body. So the patient usually appear within the newborn period, with immediately after birth, with the severe cyanosis and the respiratory distress. And that there are again the two options. One is the balloon septostomy is done, and the second, the valve replacement is done to open up the heart. Now, this is a quiz question for you people. That 8-month-old child presented with irritability, crying, and respiratory distress for last 1 hour. He is failure to thrive and has no history of cyanosis in birth. On examination, he is clubbed, having deeply cyanosed, and the left parasternal bulge and heave. No murmur, and X-ray of the chest shows oligemic gland with boot-shaped heart. What is your diagnosis? Write down your diagnosis in your comment list. Chat. What do you think what the patient is having? Good. Good. Anyone else? Abid, Myra, Sajida, Nea, Shazeb, Aisha, Usama. Good. सबका आंसर ठीक है. So what investigation will help you? बेटा टॉफ तो इसको है, लेकिन आपने एक चीज पर नोटिस नहीं किया. टॉफ तो देखें, दैट इज व्हाई आई हैव रिटन दिस क्वेश्चन हियर. दो तरह के क्वेश्चन आ सकते हैं आपके टॉफ में. टॉफ एंड टीजीए इज वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट फॉर योर प्रॉफ क्वेश्चन. इन दोनों में से एक आपके प्रॉफ में आना ही आना होता है क्वेश्चन. That is why I have come to describe you people myself के cyanotic congenital heart diseases क्या हैं. Cyanotic congenital heart diseases में से question आने के chance नहीं. PDA नहीं है. This is not PDA. This is not PDA. रीजन उसका जिस बच्चे ने पीडीए लिखा बहुत बड़ा ब्लंडर है. रीजन बीइंग पीडीए इज ए साइनोटिक हार्ट डिजीज. यही मैं बताने लगी थी. सबसे पहले जब आपको कार्डियोलॉजी का क्वेश्चन आएगा पेपर में, आपने ये देखना है इस पेशेंट को साइनोसिस है कि नहीं. अगर पेशेंट को साइनोसिस है तो आपने साइनोटिक कंजेनिटल हार्ट डिजीजेस का सोचना है, जो मैंने आपको कौन कौन सी बताई है, टॉफ बताई है, TOF टॉफ, TGA ट्रांसपोजिशन ऑफ ग्रेट आर्टरी, ट्राइकस्पिड एट्रीजिया और पल्मोनरी स्टेनोसिस एंड ट्रंकस आर्टेरियोसिस, 5 डिजीजेस हैं साइनोटिक हार्ट डिजीजेस की। PDA जो है वो एसाइनोटिक हार्ट डिजीज है। एसाइनोटिक हार्ट डिजीजेस में कभी साइनोसिस नहीं लिखा होगा, उसके अंदर VSD, ASD एंड PDA आता है। ठीक है, ये हमेशा डिफरेंशियल में आपने याद रखना है कि इसको साइनोसिस है कि साइनोसिस नहीं है, पहला कैच पॉइंट। दूसरा, टॉफ के 2 तरह के क्वेश्चन आ सकते हैं। एक टॉफ का क्वेश्चन आएगा जो सिंपल टॉफ है, जिसमें एक छोटा बच्चा है साइनोसिस के साथ आया होगा। अगर आपको याद हो, अभी पीछे मैंने बताया था, इसमें इन्होंने लिखा हुआ है नो मर्मर क्वेश्चन में, सारा है टॉफ ये बच्चे को, लेकिन जब नो मर्मर आ गया इसका मतलब है समथिंग हैज हैपेंड, जिसने इसका मर्मर गायब कर दिया। और इसका मर्मर जो गायब होता है वो सिर्फ एक कंडीशन में होता है, जब पेशेंट हाइपरसाइनोटिक स्पेल में होता है, क्योंकि हाइपरसाइनोटिक स्पेल में ये जो पार्शियल ऑब्स्ट्रक्शन होती है ये कंप्लीट ऑब्स्ट्रक्शन हो जाती है। अभी मैंने आपको बताया था, उस कंप्लीट ऑब्स्ट्रक्शन के होने की वजह से मरमर एब्सेंट हो जाएगा, क्योंकि वेल्व तो काम ही नहीं अब कर रहा, वहां से तो प्रैक्टिकली स्पीकिंग जीरो फ्लड जा रहा है, ब्लड शंट हो रहा है, और शंटिंग राइट टू लेफ्ट ज्यादा होनी शुरू हो जाती है। तो इस वजह से ये टॉफ विद हाइपरसाइनोटिक स्पेल है, बाकी सब टॉफ है। अगर टॉफ का बच्चा होता तो ही वाज क्लब्ड एंड हैव, यहाँ पे लिखा होता है एजेक्शन सिस्टोलिक मर्मर। टॉफ के क्वेश्चन आपको एग्जाम में जो प्रीवियस ईयर में भी आ चुके हैं या जो मैक्सिमम आ सकते हैं, वो 4 तरह के क्वेश्चन होते हैं। पहला क्वेश्चन ये होता है कि एक बच्चा है जो साइनोटिक है और सिर्फ टॉफ की फाइंडिंग दी होती है, ठीक है। सेकेंड क्वेश्चन आप ये लिख के रख लो अपनी बुक में, क्योंकि यही क्वेश्चन 4 आ सकते हैं टॉफ के डिफरेंट तरीके से। पहला क्वेश्चन सिंपल टॉफ, जिसमें मरमर भी होगा, क्लबिंग भी होगी, साइनोसिस भी होगा। चेस्ट एक्सरे का वो आपको खुद कहेंगे कि आप बताएं, उसमें नहीं लिखा होगा कि चेस्ट एक्सरे में हार्ट शेप बूट शेप्ड हार्ट है, ये तो सब कुछ ही बता दिया ना। दूसरा साइनोसिस, दूसरा आपका सिनेरियो ये आ सकता है जिसमें एक बच्चा है, इरिटेबिलिटी क्राइंग के साथ आया है, रेस्पिरेटरी डिस्ट्रेस के साथ है, मरमर नहीं है उसमें, इसका मतलब ये है कि वो हाइपरसाइनोटिक स्पेल में है। एक इन्वेस्टिगेशन इसीलिए इधर बता दी की गई है क्योंकि अब ये जो इन्वेस्टिगेशन है ये स्पेल की इन्वेस्टिगेशन होगी। आपकी बुक में पूरी लिस्ट दी हुई है उन्होंने स्पेल की डेफिनेशन। तीसरा क्वेश्चन आपको ये आ सकता है कि साइनोटिक हार्ट डिजीज का पेशेंट है, अब हाई ग्रेड फीवर और फिट के साथ आया, इसका मतलब ये है कि अब ये बच्चा जो है ये ब्रेन एब्सेस के साथ आया, इसकी कॉम्प्लिकेशन में मैंने आपको ब्रेन एब्सेस बताया था। चौथा क्वेश्चन ये आ सकता है कि ये एक बच्चा है 8 मंथ का ही अगर आप कहते हैं इसको, जो साइनोसिस के साथ आया, मरमर भी आ रहा है, लेकिन वन साइडेड उसको हेमीप्रेसिस या हेमीप्लीजिया हो गया। ये थ्रोम्बो एम्बोलिक फिनोमिना की वजह से है, क्योंकि उस पेशेंट को हाई उसका पॉलीसाइथीमिक है। तो ये बच्चे प्रोन होते हैं पॉलीसाइथीमिया की वजह से, जब डिहाइड्रेशन में जाते हैं इनको स्ट्रोक हो जाता है, तो वो बच्चा स्ट्रोक के साथ आया। ठीक है, वेरी गुड। इसकी इन्वेस्टिगेशन में आप चेस्ट एक्सरे करेंगे, ठीक है। फ्रंटल चेस्ट एक्सरे से ज्यादा अच्छा APA होता है, पोस्टो इंटीरियर चेस्ट एक्सरे। इसके साथ आप डायग्नोसिस के अंदर आप जब लिखेंगे कि इसका टॉफ है, तो इसमें इकोकार्डियोग्राफी का भी बहुत रोल है, क्योंकि इको ही आपको डिफ्रेंशिएट करेगी। ECG इसमें और साथ कराएंगे। व्हाट आर द प्लान ऑफ ट्रीटमेंट? जी, प्लान ऑफ ट्रीटमेंट बच्चों, हाइपरसाइनोटिक स्पेल में 3 वही जो हमने अभी रूल्स पढ़े हैं। आप उसको पेशेंट को काम रखेंगे। शंट बेटा फौरी तौर पे नहीं डाल सकते, शंट सर्जिकल ट्रीटमेंट एंड में, पहले मेडिकल ट्रीटमेंट, इमरजेंसी कंट्रोल कर रहे हैं ना। इस कंडीशन में हाइपरसाइनोटिक के लिए आपको मैंने बताया 3 रूल हैं। एक तो ये कि आप उसका ऑब्स्ट्रक्शन खोल दें, ऑब्स्ट्रक्शन खोलने के लिए उसको एसिडोसिस का करेक्ट करेंगे। सेकंड पे आप उसकी उसको काम एनवायरनमेंट में रखेंगे, ऑक्सीजन लगाएंगे। तीसरा मॉर्फिन देंगे। पेरिफेरल रेजिस्टेंस को कम करने के लिए आप उसको देंगे प्रोप्रानोलॉल और उसको नी चेस्ट पोजीशन में रखेंगे, और सिस्टेमिक प्रेशर बढ़ाने के लिए आप उसको वेजोप्रेसर देंगे। ठीक है, इसके साथ आप लिखेंगे कि आप इसको फिर पेशेंट को फौरी तौर पे शंट के लिए या करेक्टेड सर्जरी के लिए रेफर कर सकते हैं। ठीक, जी बच्चे, कोई क्वेश्चन आपका इसके साथ? अब ये पढ़ें, इसमें क्या लिखा हुआ है। आपके ख्याल में इस बच्चे को क्या है? आंसर करें, मैं आपका चैट बॉक्स खोलती हूँ। आपके ख्याल में इस पेशेंट को क्या है? बच्चों, 5 days old infant found to be cyanotic. He is active and has respiratory rate of 60 per minute. His oxygen saturation is 75% despite giving 100% oxygen supplementation. Most probable differential diagnosis. बेटा फिर वही बात हो गई। और बेटा ASD और ASD, अच्छा अभी बात हुई थी, ASD साइनोटिक हार्ट डिजीज है कि एसाइनोटिक हार्ट डिजीज है? एसाइनोटिक है ना, क्या साइनोटिक है? ये तीनों दोनों गलत हो, ये वाला तो एक ऑप्शन, अच्छा सॉरी मैंने खुद क्वेश्चन गलत पढ़ा है। ठीक आंसर कर रहे हो आप लोग कि इसमें सिर्फ और सिर्फ एट्रियल सेप्टल डिफेक्ट नहीं आएगा, बाकी सारे आएंगे। गुड, क्योंकि एट्रियल सेप्टल डिफेक्ट एसाइनोटिक हार्ट डिजीज है, इसलिए वो इसमें नहीं आती। अब आगे पढ़े जी। Within 6 hours after birth, normal transition from fetal circulation to neonatal circulation will include all of the following except fetal circulation से adult circulation में क्या चीजें आती हैं, कौन सी चीज इसमें नहीं होगी? Increase pressure in the left side of heart, decrease pulmonary vascular resistance, closure of ductus arteriosus, closure of foramen ovale, closure of ductus venosus. इसमें कौन सा गलत है? फीटल सर्कुलेशन से न्यूनेटल सर्कुलेशन के लिए अहमद इम्तियाज ने ठीक पकड़ लिया। और कौन कौन करेगा? मायदा का भी ठीक है आंसर। ये सारे आपस में नजर तो नहीं आ रहे आंसर आप लोगों को? ओके बेटा, इसमें इंक्रीज रेजिस्टेंस, इंक्रीज प्रेशर ऑन द लेफ्ट साइड ऑफ द हार्ट, ये बी, सॉरी सारे गलत बता रहे हैं। इसमें है इंक्रीज पल्मोनरी वास्कुलर रेजिस्टेंस, पल्मोनरी वास्कुलर रेजिस्टेंस कम होती है, लेफ्ट साइड का हार्ट का प्रेशर इंक्रीज होता है, डक्टस आर्टेरियोसिस क्लोज हो जाता है एंड फोरामेन ओवल क्लोज हो जाता है। जी बेटा, एनी क्वेश्चन रिगार्डिंग टुडेज टॉपिक? जी बेटा, एनी क्वेश्चन? अगर क्वेश्चन नहीं है तो फिर हम थैंक यू कर लें। क्या बेटा एक्सप्लेन करना है? ये पिछला भी क्वेश्चन बेटा, जब पल्मोनरी बर्थ पे फीटल सर्कुलेशन से न्यूनेटल सर्कुलेशन होती है बेटा, लास्ट MCQ। अच्छा, इसको हम पीछे करते हैं। एक्चुअल में यहाँ पे मुझे तुम लोग नजर नहीं आ रहे हैं, मुझे खुद समझ नहीं आ रहा मैंने पढ़ाया क्या वैसे, लेकिन चलो ये देखो, जब आपकी फीटल सर्कुलेशन से अडल्ट सर्कुलेशन पे जाते हैं तो उसमें जो काम क्या होता है, सबसे पहले पल्मोनरी वास्कुलर रेजिस्टेंस कम हो जाती है। पल्मोनरी वास्कुलर रेजिस्टेंस कम होगी तो लंग की तरफ ब्लड आएगा, ये वाला। अगर पल्मोनरी वास्कुलर रेजिस्टेंस कम नहीं होगी तो ब्लड की शंटिंग यहाँ से इधर आएगी नहीं। सो पल्मोनरी वास्कुलर रेजिस्टेंस कम हो जाती है एट बर्थ, जैसे ही एरिएशन होती है वो एल्विलाई खुलते हैं। राइट साइड, लेफ्ट साइड का प्रेशर एकदम से इंक्रीज कर जाता है क्योंकि बहुत ज्यादा ब्लड अब ऑक्सीजनेट होके लेफ्ट साइड पे आ रहा है। राइट साइड का प्रेशर कम हो जाता है क्योंकि राइट साइड पे एक तो ये स्टक कर जाता है। हाँ जी, राइट साइड का प्रेशर कम कर जाता है क्योंकि राइट साइड का प्रेशर कम हो जाता है क्योंकि प्लेसेंटल ब्लड फ्लो इधर आना बंद हो गया है। सो फीटल टू ट्रांजिशन में क्या होता है, राइट साइड का प्रेशर कम हो जाता है, पल्मोनरी वास्कुलेचर का रेजिस्टेंस कम हो जाती है, लेफ्ट साइड का प्रेशर हाई हो जाता है, फोरामेन वेल क्लोज हो जाता है और डक्टस एंड वेनोसिस भी क्लोज हो जाता है। एनीथिंग एल्स बेटा? अगर आपको अगर कोई क्वेरी है तो बताएं। बेटा ब्रेन एब्सेस, और ब्रेन एब्सेस इस वजह से होता है कि जब पेशेंट के अंदर कोई भी डिफेक्ट होता है हार्ट के अंदर, तो इस डिफेक्ट के होने की वजह से जब भी नॉर्मल हार्ट के अंदर ब्लड फ्लो होगा तो वो हार्ट के अंदर माइक्रो इंजरीज करता रहेगा, और ये जो माइक्रो इंजरीज होंगी और ये जो ब्लड की लेफ्ट डीऑक्सीजनेटेड ब्लड लंग में जाके ऑक्सीजनेट हुए बगैर लेफ्ट के साथ मिलता है, तो ये अपने साथ कैरी कर लेता है ऑर्गेनिजम्स, और ये ऑर्गेनिज्म किसी टाइम भी एक छोटा सा भी एम्बुलस अगर यहाँ से निकल जाएगा, जो हार्ट के अंदर क्लॉट्स बन जाते हैं मल्टीपल इस डिफेक्टेड ब्लड फ्लो की वजह से, अगर ये एक भी क्लॉट निकल जाएगा तो ये ब्रेन के अंदर ब्रेन एब्सेस कर सकता है। थ्रोम्बोएम्बोलिज्म का रिलेशन ये है कि जो बच्चे होते हैं साइनोटिक कंजेनिटल हार्ट डिजीजेस के, ये बच्चे कंटिन्यूस हाइपोक्सिया में रहते हैं। इस कंटिन्यूस हाइपोक्सिक कंडीशन की वजह से, क्योंकि उनको ऑक्सीजनेशन तो कम ही मिल रही है ना, कंटिन्यूस हाइपोक्सिया की वजह से रेनिन जो है रीनल एरिथ्रोपोइटिन रिलीज होती रहती है इस हाइपोक्सिया को ट्रीट करने के लिए। इस वजह से ये बच्चे पॉलीसाइथीमिक होते हैं, और ये पॉलीसाइथीमिया देन थ्रोम्बोएम्बोलिज्म बनाता है। पॉलीसाइ अगर हल्के से भी ये डिहाइड्रेटेड होंगे तो ये थ्रोम्बोएम्बोलिक फिनोमेना हो जाएगा। एनी अदर क्वेश्चन बेटा? अदरवाइज टेल मी। थैंक यू मैडम, सो मैं जाऊं? नो क्वेश्चन? ओके बेटा, इंशाल्लाह नेक्स्ट टाइम आप लोगों से मिलेंगे। अल्लाह करे जल्दी जल्दी ये मसला हल हो ताकि हम इन पर्सन दोबारा से नॉर्मल रूटीन शुरू कर सकें। ओके जी, खुदा हाफिज़।
करते हैं। मैं लेना है।
अभी फीटल ब्लड, तो फीटल ब्लड जो है फीटल ब्लड जो अम्बिलिकल आर्टरी के थ्रू प्लाज़्मा वहाँ पर जाके ऑक्सीजनेटेड हुआ। ऑक्सीजनेटेड होने के बाद वापस आया था अम्बिलिकल वेन।
मेरी नेट ना मेरी आवाज पे तो वाकई में कोई गल करो ना कि बुक्स खोल के पढ़ लो।
आपके लेक्चर शुरू हो गए हैं या नहीं?
हो गया पढ़ने अब
चलो बैठ के पढ़ो फिर।
दोबारा शुरू हो गया।
अब लेक्चर की क्लास शुरू हो गई है।
हाँ जी
चलो पढ़ो बैठ के।
ठीक है। हैं ਐਵੇਂ ਪਿਕ ਅੱਛੀ नहीं आई उधरों डाल दो।
Assalamu alaikum. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Dear students, It's so nice to talk to you again. Inshallah, we will be together again soon. Today, we are going to discuss a very important topic in obstetrics, that is lower segment cesarean section. And related to it is the vaginal birth after cesarean section. Lower segment cesarean section, it is the most important and the most common procedure which is carried out in obstetrics. So, in relation to lower segment cesarean sections, one should be able to know about its indications, the preliminary workup we need to do before embarking upon the cesarean section, the complications, and the after effects which are related to the lower segment cesarean section. The word lower segment cesarean section, it comes with the fact that this operative procedure is carried out on the lower segment of the uterus. Therefore, it is known as the lower segment cesarean section. And it means mainly to abdominate a fetus from the maternal womb. We are not carrying out with the spontaneous vertex or vaginal delivery, but we are delivering the fetus through the abdominal womb, abdominally. So mainly the cesarean section is a delivery of a fetus through an incision in the abdominal wall and the uterus. Why we have written intact uterus? It means the uterus is not injured, or rather it is not having any rupture, but it is an intact uterus. Maybe it is a scarred uterus due to previous cesarean sections. It is the most common operation which is performed worldwide. Primary cesarean section is the first cesarean section to be done on a patient, while secondary cesarean is the repeat procedure. Like we are repeating after the previous cesarean section, the second or third procedure. Now, the cesarean section rate, the WHO recommends 10 to 15%. It looks to be a rate which is on a very lower limit. But practically, which we see all over the world, more than this, is much higher than this. In the UK, it is found to be 20 to 30%. But more recently, it has been suggested that the health benefits at the rates of around 19%. But unfortunately, all over the world, the rates may go up to 50 to 60% even. But luckily, this rate is encountered in the situations, in the centers where there is a referral system, where there are the tertiary hospitals which are embarking only on taking the emergencies. So definitely then the rate would be seen very higher over there, because already the complicated cases and the patients which have failed to deliver vaginally are referred to these centers. Then obviously the rate will increase in those centers. Otherwise, the rate is relatively less. If we consider all the patients, obstetric patients, then the rates is definitely less. But with the centers which are embarking only on the emergencies, and the rate is definitely higher. So a cesarean section can be elective or scheduled cesarean section, and there can be emergency cesarean section. So if you consider in your textbooks, the classification system for cesarean section is given as the category 1, immediate threat to the life of the woman or fetus. Now, my dear students, what do you think? What could be the immediate threat to the life of the woman or the fetus? These can be like if a patient is bleeding heavily, there is risk of the fetus. In case of fetus, especially in cases of fetal distress, which can be a consequence of all these conditions, or they are requires early delivery at a time to suit the women and maternity services. Where we require early delivery, it is by the when there is a uncontrolled diabetes mellitus, planning delivery. But the first case would be a case there is we require elective fetus where there is no immediate threat, but rather we want to plan the delivery. So the other important indications for cesarean section are a previous cesarean section, dysphotosia or dysfunctional labor, that is abnormal labor, where there is a problem with the power passenger and pathways, which can lead to dysfunctional labor. Complicating the pregnancy like ovarian and fibroids, we're trying to stay in the delivery on descent of fetus, and which can also lead to abnormal so which microsomia cannot indication of the fetal macrosomia is gives me an absolute indication, but there can be cases where the case, or for especially in cases of diabetic mothers. The malpresentations, as I told you before, it can be breech presentation or transverse slide. The deep transverse arrest, where the delivery is not possible, especially in cases of android or anthropoid pelvis, abnormal uterine action, failed forceps or vacuum deliveries. The failed induction. Failed induction we can label when, in spite of giving the artificial pains, we are artificially inducing the labor by prostaglandins, but the patient does not progress in terms of cervical dilatation and fetal descent. Or in the meanwhile, if the fetal distress develops, or in cases of emergencies of cord prolapse. So, I told you was a yeah. Maternal problems include elderly nulliparas. So elderly nulliparas would not be an absolute in section.
এটা বাজছে না।
Dedication for emergencies. So, one question on request will be carried out only in a lady, which is a bad of static history and the stretch of the labor. And common indications would be previous cesarean section, labor dystocia, fetal distress, and the breech presentation. Cesarean section is the most commonly used type of cesarean section worldwide. That is, which is carried out blood. The advantage you get is that of the healing of the lower bladder, as it is present in high tensile strength. So before preparing embarking upon the cesarean section, the most important thing while doing the preparation would be you are going to have a consent for the patient. And in this consent, the patients as well as the attendants are made sure, they are reassured, they are made aware of the consequences, the implications, they are reassured about the implications, the consequences, and the prerequisite and the routines which they are carrying out during this operative procedure. The consent related to anesthesia as well as the surgical management is discussed with patients and they are taken into the confidence. Other preparations which are carried out is cross-match unit of blood of the similar blood group and are expected is being taken. Introduction of an indwelling catheter, that is a catheter, Foley's catheter is placed for the urinary bladder so that the bladder is kept safe during the operative procedure. The skin is prepared by the solution and so antibiotics are given. Left lateral tilt to reduce the aortocaval compression, the risk of supine hypotension. Thromboprophylaxis for high risk considered. The high risk like obese, previously on having or now in the current which are having hypertension or the emergency infections. So these should be the patients who are at the risk of thrombosis and therefore the thromboprophylaxis is considered for them. Regarding anesthesia, regional is always and the regional anesthesia is always better and safer option. And for the cesarean sections where the patient nil per oral for a required amount duration of period, we give the anti-emetics so that the Mendelssohn syndrome can be prevented. There's a gastric tube is introduced. So regarding the incisions, the most common incision which we use is the pen and steel incision, and it is a transverse cervical incision just above the pubic hairline. The other incisions are Cohen incision and Maryland incision, but are not in much use. And the most common and the favored incision is the pen and steel incision because it also becomes less obvious in the pubic hairlines. So how is the procedure? First, the abdomen is at the abdominal skin. We are giving the pen and steel incision, as we see in the following picture. Then we are going to give and separate the subcutaneous fat. The incision is given into the rectus sheath. The rectus abdominal muscles are separated, and then we are visualizing the uterus, and along with it, the utrovesical pouch of peritoneum. It is separated, and then the Doyne's retractor placed, as we will see in the following pictures. So, as regards to the final incision, before giving it, if there is any dextro rotation, we are going to correct it. Then visualize the lower segment of Doyne's retractor, the loose peritoneum. That is, as I have told you before, of the utrovesical pouch, it is divided transversely and separated from the bladder by the blunt incision. Small incision is made in the lower segment and extended laterally using scissors or the fingers. Now, these are what incision lines. This is the skin incision. Look, this is the skin incision in the suprapubic area. This is pubic area. It is in the suprapubic area. This is the pharyngeal incision. And after the skin incision, you can see the subcutaneous fat is visible. And this is the subcutaneous fat which is visible. And then we have also given incision, two small incisions into the rectus sheath. The rectus sheath is then bluntly separated by the finger. And then you can see here how we have separated the rectus sheath. And now the rectus abdominal muscle is housed in the subcutaneous incision of the rectus sheath, either by the scissor or by finger. Then the muscle is separated in the midline. Muscle is separated in the midline. This is how to separate the muscle, and then the picture like this. See, this is the skin incision, the subcutaneous fat is visible. Is given in the sheath. The rectus means, see, on the both sides they are separated, and you can see the patch beneath it, the retroperitoneal space. This is how the abdominal incisions are given. Then you can see the peritoneum, Doyle's detector which we have placed, and this is the peritoneum. You can identify the peritoneum. Low transfer incision is made in the uterus. You can see. So after the peritoneum is identified, the uterovesical peritoneum is separated. This is the uterovesical peritoneum, and it is separated. Now, then the uterus is visible. An incision of 1 to 2 centimeter above the original upper margin of the bladder is made on the uterus. After the uterovesical pouch is separated, the Doyen receptor is placed, and the incision is given in the uterine. If the incision in the uterine wall is seen, you can see what is this? This is amniotic sac, which is visible inside the incision which we have made uterus. It will be separated by the fingers, and then the educate calf incision would be made for the delivery of the fetus. See again, the peritoneum, it is visualized in a small incision in the uterine wall, and how bending the uterine incision. The scissor laterally, the smiley shaped manner, we are extending the uterine incision. So the delivery of the baby, how it is done, the hand is introduced into the uterine cavity, and the head is gently levered off. Fundal pressure may be exerted on the fetal buttocks to help while the delivery of the fetal. Mouth and nose are suctioned, and the umbilical cord is double clamped. So if the ventilation is breached, the feet are hooked down. The rest of the baby is delivered as in case of a vaginal breach delivery. If there is a deeply impacted head, this we will discuss later in detail also at the end of the presentation. The head may be deeply impacted in the mid pelvis with a thinned out lower margin. It means the head is deeply impacted. In majority of the cases, after a case of a prolonged labor, after a case of a restricted labor, and in this case, we are going to deliver the deeply impacted head by pull or push method, which is described in this Patpradharan method. At the end of presentation, we are going to discuss it. For the transverse or oblique lie, it is corrected to a longitudinal lie before the uterine incision is made. And if it is a transverse lie with ruptured membranes, and there is an undeveloped lower segment, like in preterm or very preterm labors, then the extension of uterine incision may be needed. So in case of dorsal-inferior position with ruptured membranes, more difficulty, and this is one situation where transverse incision is considered. Always remember, in a transverse incision, if the back is superior, the fetal back is superior, or it is always helpful. But if it is inferior or in a posterior position, definitely the delivery of the fetus would be quite difficult. So, with the closure of the uterine incision, as soon as the fetal head is delivered, oxytocin infusion is started. Placenta membranes are removed by controlled contraction. The uterine edges are held with Ellis forceps or green Armitage forceps. The most favorable are the green Armitage forceps, which can lead to uh, good hemostasis. The uterine incision is closed in 2 layers of continuous suture. It is important that 2 angles at any other bleeding points should be secured and ligated. Hemostasis is ensured, and the tubes and ovaries are inspected. So these are all the steps of cesarean section. So this is, you can see, this is how the repair of the uterine incision in the double layer is done. And then the reverse order, the closure of the abdominal incision is done. Okay, so after the double layer closure of the uterus, how we do the closure of the abdomen? Closure in layers after confirming the MOP and instrument count. This is very important. You check with your assistant that your MOP and the instrument count is complete. The parietal peritoneum need not to be closed. The rectus sheath is carefully approximated with delayed absorbable sutures to minimize the chance of wound dehiscence. The skin is approximated with mattress sutures and a subcuticular suture or clips can be applied. So for the post-operative care, for first 6 to 8 hours, look for the vaginal bleeding, the vital signs, and the condition of the uterus. Either your uterus is well contracted. On the first day, we continue with the parenteral fluids, a transfusion if needed, and antibiotics. Thromboprophylaxis in most cases is started after 24 hours, but in high-risk cases can be started earlier. Breastfeeding is encouraged as soon as possible. And on the second day, the catheter and dressing are removed. Early ambulation is advised. And on the third day, light, solid diet, and so on are advised. So other type of cesarean sections, which the incisions which we can see are the lower segment vertical incision, which is mostly done in case if there is an obstructed labor and there are constricting rings or the premature fetus is present. So in a very premature cases where the lower segment is not yet developed, then we are going to give it the lower segment vertical incisions. Classical cesarean section, when we are giving incision in the upper segment of the uterus. Classically, we are going in the lower segment, but in cases where there are any morbidity or where there is a comorbidity related to lower segment, like CS cervix, any cervical or uterine fibroid in the lower segment, then we can go into the upper segment and give a classical cesarean section. It is a vertical incision in the upper segment of the uterus. And then comes the cesarean hysterectomy. Hysterectomy in case of intractable bleeding, or there is adherent placenta and the placenta previa or atonic uterus, which is encountered while during the cesarean section, then unfortunately we have to go to the hysterectomy along with the cesarean section. Perimortem cesarean section in a lady uh, which goes into a cardiac arrest, and for the resuscitation of the mother and to have a live fetus, we go for a perimortem cesarean section, which should be considered within 4 to 5 minutes of a lady which has gone into arrest. So, what are the important complications which can be encountered with the cesarean section? So, intraoperatively, primary hemorrhage, injury to the internal organs like urinary bladder and GIT, injury to the fetus, which can occur while delivering the baby or while giving the incision, and there can be injury to any fetal body tissue. Difficulty in the delivery of the head. It can lead to fetal injury as well as fetal hypoxia. Anesthesia complications can be aspiration, Mendelssohn syndrome, hypotension, and cardiac arrest. And post-operatively, the one we encounter can be paralytic ileus, stent thrombosis, infections like peritonitis and pelvic abscess, wound dehiscence in case of infections, respiratory complications, and pelvic thrombophlebitis. Late sequelae can be a secondary PPH, placenta, or a vein is identified, placenta previa and adherent placenta in the next pregnancy, which are very common and which are the most common leading cause of repeat cesarean section in the modern world. Zygovaginal fistulas, scar rupture in the next pregnancy, which can be encountered as uterine rupture, and increased incidence of bladder injury and repeated cesarean sections. So the next topic we are going to consider is the vaginal birth after cesarean section. Always remember, vaginal birth after cesarean section when we are planning is a big deal because now we are entering the scarred uterus. It is not an intact uterus; it is a scarred uterus where the um, the labor can have its effect on the scarred uterus and on the fetus.
When a vaginal delivery is conducted in a lady who has previous vaginal delivery or in the private data, we are on a safer side. But a lady who has previous cesarean section, now we are focusing upon vaginal delivery or we are for the delivery of that lady, then more risk. So a vaginal birth after cesarean section is not always a section. Always remember, a cesarean section is not always the cesarean section. And if the patient had a cesarean delivery before, he may be able to deliver next baby vagina. This is called vaginal birth after cesarean section. This scenario, the most important of cases. Look at the previous history. Why she had a cesarean section? If it was a previous non-recurrent cause, this is very important. Previous non-recurrent cause, like a condition, fetal distress, we are not in now. Okay, so then we are going to consider and enroll those ladies for vaginal birth, for repeat, and for trial of labor after cesarean section. This is also known as TOLAC. So what is the type of incision previously given? It was article cesarean section. We are not going to go for vaginal birth after cesarean section. And what was the previous interpregnancy interval? More than means that have given enough instability to the uterine muscle and scar. Was it a previous institutional delivery? Was it spontaneous onset of labor? And now, are we going to have a continuous CTG monitoring, cardiotopographic monitoring of the fetus? Because fetal distress is one of the earliest signs of spine wall of the spine scar integrity. Always remember fetal distress. If it is present in fetal vaginal, we are going to have important problems. Isn't the no matter the complication, if it is a very size baby, and so these are all the important considerations keep in mind before embarking on the after cesarean section. How we are going to manage whether we are going to do an elective repeat cesarean section in a case where there is a huge cause like we had previously controlled hypertension, now two previous cesarean section, we are cesarean section now. But a trial of cesarean section or a vaginal birth after cesarean section is shown as a Similarly, the nowadays of setting, we consider what is the biometrical thickness of the scar. If it is more than 2.5 mm, we consider to be on the safer side. Similarly, we consider about the recent plate volume, the central location. So we are going to take an informed consent from the patient. We are going to do one-to-one monitoring, and we are see always conscious of the signs of ruptured uterus. As I told you before, if there are previous classical incisions, previous cesarean sections, we are not 0.5 to 1%. The risk of morbidly adherent placenta, the risk of severe postpartum hemorrhage, the risk of adhesion, obstructive interference, and peripartum hysterectomy. They are all increased in case of final birth after cesarean section. Always conscious in case of vaginal birth after cesarean section are the signs of pregnancy signs that can be bridal sharp pain between contractions, unusual pain or tenderness, recession of the fetus, bulging the baby, injury, and the cause of taking fracture cesarean section. This is the most important sign. Maternal tachycardia, rapid heart rate, and hypotension in case of mother are also signs which can lead us to deal with the emergency. So what is the prevention? Then we can have prevention and safety from uterine ruptures and having um, emergent and very drastic consequences from cesarean section, vaginal birth as well after cesarean section. We should be careful of the use of oxytocin, misoprostol, and prostaglandin for induction and augmentation of labor, especially in grand multiparous with previous cesarean section. And dear students, this is a very important and a very common tragedy which we encountered in our circumstances, in our arena, that in the underdeveloping countries, in our developing countries, where oxytocin and misoprostol or prostaglandin are judiciously used without any institutional care for the induction of labor. For their prevention also, we should also try to have reduce the primary rates of cesarean section so that we can reduce the rate of cesarean section, and we can also have the number of cesarean section reduced, thus the rate is reduced, and thus we are uh, having ourselves saved from the stress of vaginal birth after cesarean section and repeat cesarean section, which can lead to drastic emergencies of adherent placenta, bacteria. For this, we should give a good trial of labor with all the ladies which we encounter, and we should not embark on primary cesarean section without clear and due conditions. So the another important modality which should also be considered is the infected headed cesarean section, which we encounter in both of the situations. And an infected headed cesarean section can be an extremely stressful situation for the operating physician and for the parents. So full dilatation cesarean sections, malpresentation, prolonged second stage of labor, where there is hyperstimulated uterus, which was when the lady was having intravenous syntocinon and induction of labor, and unsuccessful instrumental delivery, though obstructed labor. In all these cases, we find a stress where we find an infected head, and because of the failure of progress, we are going for an emergency cesarean section. And it is a decorative explanation for the mother and the fetus, all of them. So how to deal with this situation? Important thing is allow the uterus to relax before disinfecting the head. And for this thing, uterine injection such as salbutamol or salbutamol 0.25 mg subcutaneous is very helpful. It helps you relax the uterus before you can carry out with your maneuver to disinfect the head and deliver the baby. But be aware of the issues which can happen later because of the attorney of the uterus as a result of terbutaline, or the later can be encountered with any uterine incision, God forbid, if it extends. So for in these cases, how to deliver? Either we are going to go for the disengagement of the head, requires flexion and rotation of the head into the transverse position prior to delivery by lateral flexion. Okay, and, uh, and an obstructed head is, or a deflexed head is in an extension position. We are required to have its flexion so the diameter is reduced and the head can be delivered. Forcing the head upward with the trauma, including fracture to the fetal head and extension of the uterine angles. So it can result in hemorrhage and damage to the vista, urinary bladder, most important. Consider the use of a uterine relaxant. The fetal head can be flexed and rotated vaginally, as I told you, and this is and then also concurrently pushed vaginally into the hands of the operator. So this will be labeled as a push technique. It is also mentioned in your textbook. The fetal head is first flexed and rotated vaginally and pushed vaginally with the help of an assistant and into the hands of the operator. When the head is infected so badly and the baby can be delivered as breech by holding the legs. So abdominally, if it is infected deep down into the pelvis and either by push technique or by even uterine relaxant or without, and even with the help of the assistant, it cannot be disinfected, then it can be delivered by a pull technique. It means by holding the legs and delivering as breech. So the pull technique is used, but always keep in mind to keep the blood arrangements ready as the result of extension of the uterine, cervical and vaginal tears. and risk of postpartum hemorrhages many times increase. Thank you very much, my dear students, for your careful listening and your attention. Thank you very much. See you soon again, inshallah.